Good, guys. Well, thank you guys so much for coming today, especially on a rainy day with somewhat of a Bad News Bears topic, but super important for all of us in this room. So thank you guys so much for coming as usual. And let's start out by thanking our sponsors. First, I want to thank Stephen Hines, our amazing photographer who always films this, puts it on YouTube, does all this work for free for our group so that if you can't ever make it, we always publish all of our videos on YouTube so you can watch it after the fact, or if you need to go back and check some of the details, we got you. So thank you, Stephen, so much. If you don't know, Stephen is an amazing real estate photographer. He does all my real estate photography, videography. I mean, I'm sure other people in the room have worked with Stephen. Amazing. So if you need a great real estate photographer, videographer, this is your guy.
Thank you.
And then we have Anchor Title. So Preston and Brian, not only are we presenting, but they sponsored today's meeting. They're the ones who brought us all this Marco's Pizza. So make sure, look at all this pizza, guys. Make sure that you eat the Marco's Pizza. And provided our great speaker, Preston Nash, who is the VP of Anchor Title. And I've already talked about Anchor Title in the past, but Anchor Title is our go-to title company in terms of investor-friendly title company. They are it. They know how to do all the weird stuff, wholesale, double close, sub 2, seller carry back, anything weird situation, these guys know how to do. They have done it for me. They do a great job. I know a lot of us in this room have had an experience with Anchor Title. I've heard no one has had a bad experience working with Anchor Title. I am annoyed when I have to not work with Anchor Title. So thank God for these guys on a daily basis, but thank you especially today for coming to talk about such an important topic. It is kind of a Bad News Bears topic, but it is coming literally March 1st, so it's coming on Sunday, and it's going to affect especially all of us in this room. The new FinCEN rules, which Preston is going to talk to us about, this is going to affect us starting Monday, and this seems to kind of like slid under the radar with everything else going on. It's like this is coming and nobody's talking about it, and a lot of people aren't prepared, but that's not going to be us. We're going to be prepared because we have Preston who's going to educate us. We're going to have a game plan so that we know what's going on and we can all adjust our business plans accordingly.
Well, first, thank you so much for the kind words. I appreciate that. That's very nice. We are here to help any way you need us. Unfortunately, I am here to talk about a rule today that takes effect March 1st. Goes into effect March 1st. Technically, the rule was established on December 1st. But we'll try to navigate this as easy as possible. Don't blame the messenger. Please call your local congressman, and that's where you divert your anger to.
Actually, Preston, I forgot something. I'm
Yes.
sorry, my ADD. Okay, usually we do around the room to have everybody introduce themselves so that you kind of know who's sitting in the room and who does what in real estate. We do that real quick?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, y'all know me, Maura McGraw, run an investor-focused real estate team here in Alabama. Michael's on my team, and thank you guys for coming. But we'll do a quick around the room because I think it's helpful to know who's in the room, who's doing what, because we have the most amazing community here. Brian.
I'm Brian Griegers, business development for Anchor Title. Laura did my introduction for y'all. So but we're happy to be here and happy to sponsor, and I think y'all are going to get a lot out of what Preston's got to say today.
My name is Denise Chase. I'm one of Maura's very satisfied customers.
Robert Nelson, Trinity Capital Ventures, and a private large lending space.
Jennifer Huber, and we help you income stack on top of all the things you're already doing. We just help you find creative ways to also make income based on those, whether you're a realtor or you are doing some private lending like a friend here, or whatever. We really help you add on to your business in a way that doesn't take up more time.
I am Amy Brand, and I am a bankable brand in hybrid brand investing. We do all types of creative lending, so your RV parks, your mobile home parks, your seller carrybacks, all of the extremely creative outside-the-box stuff. We do the vanilla too, but that's what we specialize in is creative lending solutions.
Yeah, I'm Sam Jeff Carey, and I'm a commercial banker here with Brian.
I'm Natalie Conrad. I'm an investor in rentals and
I'm Maria Oliver. I am a realtor with Revitalize
Patterson, do fix and flip and buy and hold real estate.
Rob Shell, Innovate Real Estate. I'm a deduction specialist for commercial real estate on a national level. I work with a variety of different tax services, and I help investors nationally save money on taxes.
Eric Eden, owner-operator, Shop House Properties. We create great spaces for great local businesses.
My name is Khalid Herring. I've got a couple rental properties, but my specialty is wholesaling and finding off-market stuff and passing those discounts on to investors who want to fix and flip or buy and hold or anything like that.
I'm Jerry Lester, just moved here recently. We're looking at doing fix and flips and lease options.
Agreed, we just moved here from Texas, and so we invested in Texas, so we're learning this area.
I'm Robert Coppin. I'm realtor with Levitt and Rinke over in Pensacola, but right now I'm only doing referrals.
Dave Coppin, just getting started. We're looking to do some fix and flips and from the Pensacola area.
I'm Will. I'm a CPA. I own a accounting services business called Keeper Books. We work with real estate investors and property managers. I also have developed an accounting software called Property Flow. It's very similar to QuickBooks, but specifically tailored for real estate investors.
Hey, I'm Lee Wonder, I'm the Valley Realty. We help investors find, renovate, and manage their properties with a retirement focus.
And I'm Sarah Ferreira. I'm with Revitalize Realty, and I'm business development manager.
Christian Williams, I'm with the Rent Experts Property Management Company. We're a local property management company in Mobile, Long County.
Michael Bailey, I'm a new member of Mara's team, and we'll be tackling the Pensacola market.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Now, really, I'm going to press.
Back to me. Back to me. Real quick, show of hands. Who has heard of FinCEN before the beginning of the year? Before New Year's? Couple? Yeah. Real quick, we're going to go through some acronyms real quick so we're all on the same page today. FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Agency, the U.S. government. AML, Anti-Money Laundering. And FRS for FinCEN Reporting Services. A couple key things we're going to start off here with today. But real quick on FinCEN, it has been trying to get pushed through for some time now. I would say a couple years. And it's got a lot of kickbacks in Congress, state levels. Even our own Land Title Association had its own lawsuits. It really got drug out for a long period of time. One of the things that we had issues with is it kept changing. We didn't know if it was 1 to 4 family. We didn't know if commercial was going to be involved. We didn't know it was reporting on the buyers and also the sellers. We didn't know the scope of the questions in which they were going to be asked. It was always a moving target. So much so, about a year ago, I just got tired of reading updates on it. I was like, you know what, when y'all finally figure out what this is going to be, let me know. Because it was, and I would love to tell you that what today is going to stick. But it's the federal government, so I can't tell you what's going to stick today. It will still be the same reporting as of next year, next month. But we're going to go over it today and try to figure out how we can help out in the future with any of y'all's clients or yourselves, and how Anchor can also help with that. I know there's a banker or two in this room. They are used to the terms anti-money laundering and the Bank Secrecy Act. But FinCEN really here is to collect data. Right? A lot of times the title industry has been the piggyback for a lot of rules that come in place in the federal government for tax collection services. We're number 2 in the country, only behind the IRS. Not something we love doing by being a tax collector, but it's something that we keep getting thrown at us. And this is just another rule. You know, back in the 80s, they threw the 1099s at us, right? And we have to report on them. Today, it's now FinCEN. Next month, it'll be something else. But they'll keep putting it on us in the real estate industry. Because we had a great speaker not too long ago talk about money laundering from the FBI. You know, the eye is in the value of the beholder, right? There are 3 real things you can money launder in, at least we were told, that they love doing. Gyms, art and real estate. So much so, I probably get served twice a quarter by the feds for someone laundering money in Baldwin County alone. So it does happen. It does happen a lot of times without a lot of people knowing about it. The criminals are pretty good at it. But this really is a way for new reporting on real estate transactions, non-financed residential transfers. Two key words there. Non-finance, we can think of many ways for non-financing. We'll go over those in just a sec. And the other key word here is residential transfer, not transaction. So it can be done without any consideration of change in who owns the property. So it doesn't necessarily mean that the transaction or closing takes place. If that happens, it is reportable. Let's go over first what else this takes place over. So, non-cash deals for entities. What entities? Entities could be an LLC, could be a limited liability company, could be an S corp, could be a trust. Any of those, as the purchaser cash, instantly is reportable. How hard is the reporting? Well, right now we have it, right, at 50 questions, 50 some odd questions, for both the buyer and the seller. Both parties will have to fill out questions. Even though the seller doesn't know the buyer, just that's how they want it reported. Some types of information they're collecting. Beneficial ownership information, identification docs, social security numbers, where the money came from, where's the money going, where'd you earn the money. More details about the purchasing entity. But in that, so much so, when you have these transfers into entities, everyone's going to ask you about LLCs. What do I need to have ready for when I report? Well, you're going to have the whole 9 yards ready. I've had many people from all over ask me, well, I don't have, the original certificate. I don't have the bylaws ready to go. Or any of these other processes we have to have. You're going to have the whole 9 yards ready to report days in advance of closing. Because we can't proceed with closing until we get a green light from the reporting services that you're good to close. So the sooner you start reporting, the faster, but we'll go through that in just a second. FRS, really, when it comes to cash entities, saying payment with cash is pretty easy. You have a lot of transactions which you might have a hard money lender involved. You might have investors involved, right? You may have a vendor's lien deed, homeowner seller finance. Still, all those are reportable. Every single one of those transactions needs to be reported through FRS. There are a lot of different ways I know investors can construct deals in clever ways, but unless the money directly comes from a financial banking institution that handles their own anti-money laundering guidelines, then it has to be reported. Some of these reporting transfers may be a 1-to-4 family dwelling. When we talk about residential. No commercial, first off, no commercial as of yet. So we're good to go on the commercial side. Let's talk about 1-to-4 family dwellings, reportable. Condominium, reportable. Vacant land, zoned residential, has to be reported. You are also going to ask a question when you are reporting. Do you intend to build a 1-to-4 family dwelling on this property? You have to answer that question to the best of your ability at that time, within reasonable reliance, as they say. If your answer is yes, then it's reportable. Let's take a scenario. If you're going to buy a property in downtown Fairhope, downstairs you're going to put a hardware store. Upstairs you're going to have 2 condos. And that entire transaction is immediately reportable because there is 1-to-4 family dwelling upstairs. Any commercial property that has additional residential property attached to it is then reportable. So that is, I got asked a question the other day about not just building. If you buy a piece of property and it has commercial on it, but there may be a loft upstairs, it's still reportable. If there's any wonderful residential family on that property, it's immediately reportable on commercial deals. The zoned land is immediately reportable, but that's up to your answering or your client answering the question is, do they intend to build? But my understanding at the moment is that if it's already zoned residential, then it's a lot and it's immediately reportable. Questions about properties on which type of properties are reportable.
Why do they just make it residential, not?
You know, I got asked that question a bunch recently because I've had several people in the Birmingham area or Huntsville area ask me, well, I see more fraud in the commercial. Maybe. But this really came about over the past year and a half. They did a pilot program in 34 counties around the country, and they found enough fraud and or bad actors on the FBI's list that they were very gung-ho on green lighting this. And it got pushed off for years about what the guidelines would be. At one point, I think the questions were over 200 questions. It has now got whittled down to 50-ish aside. Just the sheer amount in a pilot program on residential side from 34 random counties around the country, it's pretty, from my understanding, it was pretty substantial of what they caught. And the other thing was we always thought, well, maybe Congress will strike it down. The other problem was both parties won it. One party doesn't trust the Chinese and the other party doesn't trust the Russians, so it's coming. I think it's the only thing in which they both agree on. And so the only thing keeping it from going live March 1st is an act of Congress, unless Congress strikes it down, but those days have run out. And also over the years, there was a pile of lawsuits against it, and the last man standing was Fidelity. Fidelity had a lawsuit that they lost in court in November. And this rule really went into effect December 1st, but the feds were kind enough to let all of us get our ducks in a row. So they gave us till March 1st until we got enacted. Yes?
Just interesting, was did Congress on a whole vote for this passage, or did it just go through a steering committee and?
I believe it was a whole vote on it. I believe. Now that was also 3 years ago.
It's curious.
I'm trying to recall on that question, but it was something they started as a pilot program, and like I said, the numbers were pretty staggering what they caught. And to be fair, the ones, every single one, I can only speak towards Anchor. Of all the subpoenas I've gotten for money laundering, because I always look them up in Alcourt just to see, especially when I get a subpoena from the feds. I kind of want to see what it is. Have all been residential. Not a single one's been commercial in Baldwin County.
Is there like a floor? I mean, if it's a 10,000, I mean, it's not that much land.
No, and the way this is, right, when we say all cash, if you involve a lender, a lending institution, such as Bryant Bank, if you involve a lender which way, they already have to do a lot of reporting by themselves. That's why FinCEN would not be reportable now. You know, people say, you know, I made a joke. Well, if I bought $1 million piece of property, I'll go borrow $1,000 from the bank, and then I'm get around it. However, one, are you really speeding up your transaction time? You know, the bank's happy to charge you a origination fee, right? And if I knew you were doing it and I was a banker, I'd give you an early payment penalty on that in a heartbeat. But, you know, it just depends. Is answering these 50 questions going to take that much time out of your life? If you have your ducks in a row, probably not. You know, I've had some people ask me, what if I don't have it all created? We'll get into that long rabbit hole of continuing coverage if you change properties, the holder of the name on your title policy. Because a lot of times, as soon as you transfer that property to somebody else, your title policy is no longer effective on that property. But continuing coverage is short, doesn't hold a lot in it. But there is a way we can help out with that. But it's a very short time period in which to do so. Yes, sir.
I've known a lot of flippers in the past who form a separate LLC for each entity that they flip. If you have any comments on that?
We will get down to FRS, the actual system, and payment structures and how long that takes. But I can tell you this. We've done many, and you call it a series LLC. LLC owns an LLC owns by another LLC, owned by another LLC, owned by a trust that's got 4 investors in it. Or each investor has their own trust. You have to drill down and dive all the way till you hit a human being. That's this rule. It's no matter how many entities you have lined up in a row for protection, they will go, you have to go through the LLC, to the next one, to the next one, until you hit a responsible party individual. That's what will happen in this scenario.
Preston, what government agency is going to be managing this program?
The Financial Crimes Enforcement Agency, I believe, the FinCEN Reporting Services for AML is either under DOJ or the Treasury. One of the two.
So is there tentacles into the IRS? Is there a dotted line to the IRS with this?
You know, I would be hard pressed to say there is, because the government does not talk well with each other, different departments. You know, I asked a question not too long ago when I got my TSA pre-check. You know, it's like, you already have my passport. They're like, what color are your eyes? How tall are you? I'm like, you already have all this information. And they're like, well, yes, sir, this department does not talk to that department. So to answer your question, could it? Possibly. Is the government really good at talking to each other in different departments? Not really. Not unless you're a big enough fish to go after, is the answer probably to that question.
I'm sure you're going to get into this, but what are the downsides of being an investor in real estate? Let's say you're going to buy a $4 million short-term rental in the 30A Destin area, and you're wealthy, and you want to be able to avoid some taxation by owning a short-term rental. And if this FinCEN thing comes up, what are you now in a position where you may want to think twice about making that investment?
I'm going to refer to you on tax strategies. However, most of this, when you already filing taxes anyway, if they're going to claim whatever they have, right? Most of this is to see, is not to catch good people and for any more tax money, really, as far as I'm aware of at the moment. Most of this is trying to catch bad guys. Most of this is, all right, you told me your money came from there, it's going over there. Fine, good to go, see you later. A lot of times, like I said, we've seen some very clever ways in which bad actors, and these days, even on the digital side, we've seen a ton of these days of how good they are at hiding things, how good they're paying or moving money around, or taking your money, one of the two. As far as I know right now, when it comes to tax questions, I don't really know a lot because we haven't gotten that far down the road. I would like to say that this starts on March 1st. It really started for us at the beginning of the new year. That's why I asked that question. Because we have a handful right now that have not closed yet. That are just the very first ones we've ever done that we have had to start reporting on because they're going to close after March 1st.
The transaction level, who's responsible for managing the FinCEN? Is it the title company? Is it a mortgage company?
I got a chain for you.
Okay.
And it's a trickle-down cascading effect on responsibility and liability on that one. And I got a, what you got?
In regards to cost, what are we going to see in hard costs because of this, like settlement sheet, closing cost, and what kind of estimates we're looking at on soft costs, just this all together?
Couple ways here. One, the Treasury said they always play a report and do a study on what the cost would be per transaction to the individuals. The Department of Treasury came out and said they anticipate about $800 for reporting each one. Now, we with FRS have the ability to anchor, because one of our goals was to try to drive that price down. We could get it done for $400, so we can try to cut that price in half per transaction. Now, there are two other things that come up with that. If you have an LLC owned by an LLC, owned by an LLC, owned by 4 different trusts of investors, you're probably going to go up an additional $100 or so on a file. That's going to take time. Usually reporting time, if we're just talking about money, how long does it take to report? How long would it take me to get my information back? Also twofold. When we get a file in and we see that it is a transaction that's conducted with cash or any kind of hard money financing, also it could be a credit union. If it's not a state or federal accredited credit union, they do not follow the AML rules, the banks, so that will also have to be reported. But most of your state and federally accredited credit unions, most of them are following the AML rule, so they should be good to go. But your really small ones, some of your farmer ones, and stuff like that, will not be, so those will also have to be reported. But back to the money. We're in a situation with FRS because of the amount of business that we do to drive that cost down for the consumer. Flat base fee will probably be $400 if it's not a rush order. So what I mean by rush order is that's within 5 business days of the day of transaction. Anything before 5 business days, I can get $400. Within 5 business days, I do have the availability to get it back in 24 hours, but this goes to a point of I'm going to be sending a portal to both buyer and seller. How fast can they do their jobs to get it done? We can only get reporting done as fast as the clients, y'all, whoever maybe gets it done. But I'll talk about FRS and what they offer, but a rush order might be another $100.
So you're saying it'd be reasonable, say across title companies, that you may see a range of $400 to $800 cost additional on your closing fees?
Yes, yes. Now,
and on the buyer's side.
Right, but because we're using a system, there will be, it's another piece of technology. I don't know if you've ever used anything with Anchor. We use a company called Closing Lock. What Closing Lock does up front before closing as well is it verifies purchasers, buyers, and sellers, and it verifies wiring instructions to a secure portal. And they answer questions, because we do a lot of arm's length transactions where people are not coming into closing, especially at the beaches. I mean, 70% of our transactions at the beaches, those people were not, it's very rare that buyers and sellers show up. Someone's in Nashville, someone's in Texas, someone's in New Orleans, somewhere. So we use that product to a lot of upfront questions and answers to verify both buyer and seller and where they are and who they say they are. It also offers security of the wiring portal as well, and the secure link for wiring instructions. But a lot like that, FRS will work like that. So very upfront, when we get an order in and we can identify this is going to have to be reported, we will put basic information in, send it off to FRS. FRS then takes it over from Anchor and takes the liability and the time and effort away from everyone in this room, including Anchor, which I also love. No one wants that on their table. What they will do is then talk to the clients through email and through a secure portal with secondary authentication on their phones, and ask them the questions they need, walk through that with them. Even if a phone call is needed, they will help walk them through it to help them guide them through the process. Then as fast as they can get it done and we get it back, because we may be ready to close. The lender may, the hard money lender says it's good to go. Y'all say it's good to go. Underwriting for me says it's good to go. But until we get the green light from SRS, they'll sign one more document at closing, and it's an acknowledgement of the information that you've given is truthful and to the best of your knowledge. That's the one more document they'll sign at the table. But as far as FRS, we'll see how well it goes with them. I'm sure they're still working out, because a lot of people really kicked it in high gear come New Year's, because it came very real, very fast for a lot of people.
So, good, honest person, $500,000 transaction, somehow has $250,000 in their mattress, does a cash deposit, and then finances the remaining balance. Is that a huge red flag? Because I'm probably
I would say, most of the time, no. We've Anchor over the years, over the thousand transactions we've done, have done them a whole bunch of different ways. There are a lot of individuals in this country that do not trust banks.
Right.
Those bankers are bad guys. There's one back there. The lawyers are the bad guys. Sometimes I'm the bad guy, right? And I don't always have good news of why you can't close tomorrow. But no, it would not be a huge red flag. Like I said, for the most part, this isn't about collecting more taxes or stuff like that for the most part. It's about just making it harder for bad guys to acquire and to launder money. Trying to at least make it harder for them anyway.
So if I've done multiple transactions within a year, do I have to do this every single time?
You do.
That answers my your question.
You do.
It sounds like the challenge, one of them, I was just one, is that if you're the seller and you transact with an unsophisticated buyer or a disorganized buyer,
right?
It's almost like a credit risk. Like, is this transaction going to close if they can't get all their docs together?
You know, I was talking to somebody, I think it was a real estate company down at the beach, and they were talking about when it comes to negotiating side on the contract, there will be eventually a checkbox on will be FinCEN reported, right? I'm sure on contracts in the future. And if you've got two cash offers, right? If I've got a cash offer with somebody who's buying their name, I got a cash offer for equal price and they're buying an LLC, which way am I going to go now? Probably going to go with that individual. Because then I, as a seller, don't have to start reporting, but that's up to you. That's all up to what they want to do. And if you're just a truthful, honest person, it doesn't much matter. But if you're trying to make your life easier and a smoother transaction, then whatever. If you're somebody that doesn't like giving that information, which there are plenty of people that don't, that may be a route that they go with. But it's just something else to think about for their clients. Can't remember where I left off.
Oh, I have one question. So if I bought it in personal and I want to do an extended policy.
Oh yeah, we're about to get into that.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, types of questions. For the most part, I have not gone through them one by one. FRS has been doing the best they can to get us training tools and the questions that they have. One of the questions you had was about costs. It would have been difficult, and it will be difficult. There are not a lot of national title services down here. Even they won't do it. But it'd be hard to trust in myself at Anchor for me to hire an employee to come in the back office to fill out what they said to be 6 to 8 hours of work per file. To only do them when I have them. And I said, well, what's that employee going to do if I don't have any that month? So I was like, I'm not paying him to do nothing all day. But the problem here is the liability and trust. Do I want Anchor or anybody else using it? No, I mean, I know that Anchor's still going to be on the hook for it. We're in the middle of the dot. Every entitlement settlement service here is the middle of the dartboard for responsibility and liability on that. All of us are. And I can't write off my liability to anybody else. Now, I can have someone in the ring with us to help us with this. My underwriter they created FRS as a separate company years ago and started building it out since. So they're kind of on the playing field with us at the same time. But that's one of the ways you can drive down costs is instead of employing people, right, to drive up payroll, insurance, whatever it might be, how do I get a third party in here to be responsible to help talk to the clients about how to answer the questions correctly and to make sure that all the information is filled out and it can get reported. Because one of the things they will do is they will not allow you to go in there and put 1, 2, 3, 4 on an answer. They will not allow you to fill in NA, for example, on a bar. They want it completely filled out. And for any reason, after closing, that the feds kick it back, FRS will then go to your client and make sure it does get reported, so it's not on any of our laps to go do follow-up information on it. FRS will take all that for us, which will be nice. Because we have that sometimes happen in the clerk's office in probate court, where records could be going great, and for some reason that clerk of court will decide that deed or that mortgage or that trust, whatever it may be, they didn't like it, and they'll kick it back to us. Well, we need that recorded immediately. We need that mortgage recorded immediately. And why did you kick it back? Well, we'll fix whatever they want on it, make them, whichever clerk of court happy that day, and go back down there and get it recorded. That's usually something I usually worry about, what's got kicked back. In this case, one of the things that we loved about FRS was the fact that they will still follow up after closing and make sure it's done. Make sure it's done correctly. That way none of us have to sit around and wonder, one of the feds are going to knock on my door tomorrow. Do you have a question?
Personal opinion on your side, if you want to answer it, fine. Are other title companies as up to speed as you are in this area? You've answered it.
Yeah. I'm not going to throw anybody on the bus.
All right.
The thing that I've noticed that's concerning to me is the realtors. No, there's a lot of realtors that I've said, you know,
Yeah,
you
the
need to check
realtors-
into FinCEN, and they go, what?
Realtors are in for a huge shock.
So what I'm trying to do is get out ahead, because if the realtors, they're gonna get blowback from their clients, then they're gonna call us and they're gonna say, what, y'all didn't even tell us about this, so.
And there are, and one of the things that we'll run into a lot, and there's two markets that Anchor's in, which we will see a lot of. One is the secondary home market, whether it's the bay houses on the Eastern Shore, or especially the condominiums and beach houses. The other market that we see a lot of last minute, hey, I'm gonna put it in LLC and not my name, that'd be Auburn and Tuscaloosa, your college towns. Always parents coming from out of state, out of town, wanting to put stuff last minute. They realize that, oh, it's not just my child living here, I'm also gonna let two of their sorority sisters or fraternity brothers, and I don't want that liability. I'm gonna go put it in LLC. Or we may lease it out after they graduate. They're gonna put it in another company name. So we've seen that a lot at the last minute. They say, hey, my client, all of a sudden, I want to put an LLC the day before closing. One of the things we've asked a lot of realtors is, please, at the beginning, if you have someone paying cash, reach out to them. Ask them if there's any way or possibility you believe that you may put this in LLC, that we might get the ball rolling on that. You know, if they do, we can start that. We're going to talk about continuing coverage of what we can tell Anchor Title. So after closing, we can still try to transfer it into said LLC, even though the day of we don't have the docs ready for closing yet. And by docs ready for closing, let's talk about LLCs, articles of incorporation, the bylaws, the organizational docs, original certificate, operating agreement. They're going to need it all, the whole 9 yards.
All right, in the situation that you described here, I've known of people who've had children and you know, in the end, what are they going to have to do? I mean, is it just a matter of retitling? I mean, can they contact their attorney and say, retitle this from this to this, and that meet the requirements?
Also a loaded question. All right, so if you have an LLC, or you and your wife would like to put it in your trust, right, for estate planning reasons. So you might leave it to the children as trustees later in life. If you were to put it in your trust, you do not have to go through FinCEN or report it if the names are clear. If you are the owners of said property, Green Acres A, and you go to put it into your trust, right, living trust, then you do not have to report it then.
Yeah.
There are several instances where non-reporting. Banks don't have to report. They have their own guidelines. Government entities will not be subject to reporting themselves. Easements. I know easements are always a touchy subject. They will get you into a title claim faster than anything in the world. Easements, when they're created or revoked, are non-reportable. A lot of issues here. Bankruptcies, non-reportable. If someone leaves in a will and it transfers a title to you in your LLC through a will, also non-reportable. This one is a little vague right now, and it's divorces. I haven't seen many divorces where in a divorce decree they left it to the company, the house, but I'm sure that it does happen. And if the husband owns an LLCs or whatever, they might say in a divorce decree that we will leave it to the LLC instead of the individual's name. That would be non-reportable. Any court rulings, a judge gives a court ruling on something, that's also non-reportable. 1031 exchanges, non-reportable. There's already enough tax questions.
Yeah.
And those, yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Everything you're saying, I think it's a pain.
Yeah.
But I think it's a really good. I didn't know about this walking in here.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is great for the country. As much as it may not be the best process.
Yeah.
It's great for the country.
And that's part of the reason We went with FRS and another system like FRS being digital and doing it at arm's length transaction was trying to make this either lower cost and easier for consumer to use. And that's the best company I've found so far to do so. Not that one won't be created in a year from now, but right now as where we stand, FRS so far has been the best. But this really goes into a subject of just changing title. You know, I know, and I'm sure you all do, know a handful of attorneys who are happy to write a deed and change it over to LLC for no consideration. It may add people to it. Or the LLC might be owned by you and a bunch of buddies, and it's just you on title. Unfortunately, that will have to be reported. And my question always is, and this is going to be taken up with the Bar Association, of what are their going to be required standards for reporting for the attorneys. I think that's going to be a big hiccup for them. And if I was them, I'd steer clear from it for a little while at least. The chain we were talking about a while ago for who's responsible. Who asked me that question? Responsibility. On who's responsible? We'll go over it. Responsible reporting entities starts with me. Starts with Anchor Title. Starts with any other settlement service agency that you deal with. The fines and the fees for this. Civil fine for not reporting is $100,000. The criminal fine, just to let you know of how serious the federal government is about this, criminal fine is if you, and they can, very ambiguous here, if they want to go after you or not go after you for criminal charges, is $250,000 and 5 years in prison. So that's where we stand today. So, a lot of fun. I look forward to doing every single one and not missing any. But settlement services really are the bullseye here. It starts with us, and it is upon us on a liability for us to get it done right. The trickle-down effect then goes to, has anybody ever in here done a transaction where you might have a bank or a law office involved, where they might do the closing, but a title company will do the policy? But I'd be more than happy to have a class about policy coverages.
I've heard you just mention Alabama. Do you just work in Alabama, or do you do Florida, or?
I think I did work in about 35 states last year.
Okay, sure.
No, most of our business, day-to-day business, is done between Alabama, Mississippi, and Florida. Most of it. I mean, I do a lot of work with some investors who do a lot of Dollar Generals. I forgot how big Texas was last year. And I asked, where's my research back from Texas? And that's usually where they build Dollar Generals in the middle of nowhere. He's like, sir, we only go out there once a month. I go, okay, got it. But yeah, we do work. I can do work. Anchor Title is licensed, licensed to do work in all 50 U.S. states.
So when I'm there, you do commercial as well?
Right. We do also shipbuilding, all the RSA work, ThyssenKrupp plants, Airbus, all the fun stuff.
Did you say ThyssenKrupp plants? I didn't know ThyssenKrupp was doing
Back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
But we do have an office in Florida, in Pensacola.
Yeah, we do. We have a direct office. Some states require you to have a direct office. Technically, by the letter of law of the state of Alabama, there's not a lot of teeth in that bill, but you have to have a brick and mortar land title company in the state. It hasn't really been challenged in state court yet. But you have to be required by the State Department of Insurance for that policy to be written by a brick and mortar. Texas does the same thing. Texas really has a hard time. They don't allow outsiders to come in and do any work in Texas. They don't like that.
How is the agent and broker community, let's say on the Gulf Coast, becoming educated and knowledgeable about this as this hits its wall within a week?
Well, I asked the same question to agents and brokers, and also asked the same question to a lot of attorneys that work for us and my lawyer friends. I asked them about the bar as well. What's the bar put up? Not much.
I mean, like, the organizations like PAR or EPAR or, you know, up and down the coast, CPAR.
They haven't got much.
They should be all over this thing right now.
They haven't got much of it, but I will play devil's advocate on that and say that this sat around in DC for years, and it got greenlit. It kind of got put to the back burner, and it got greenlit overnight when that last lawsuit fell, when the U.S. court won in U.S. court. And it got greenlit real quick. They wanted to implement it day one, December 1st, and some people talked them off the ledge and said, give us a few months to talk, speak, get our ducks in a row for settlement service agencies, for underwriter side. So they at least gave us 2 months, and that's all about they gave us. But no, to answer your question, I have not. I've asked a lot of realtors. I've asked a lot of lawyers at the same time from the Bar Association, what have you seen? And I've gotten the same response from everybody, is not much. So when we have to answer these questions, sometimes when they don't know about it and they haven't spoken to anybody about it, I will get a phone call saying, are you collecting my client's data? No, sir. I would not be holding that data.
With you speaking, I wouldn't want to have a closing unless Anchor was involved. You at least are knowledgeable in this, and this is kind of freaking me out. Then other title companies probably aren't as involved.
No, it is harder. It is hard for title companies. I will relate it back to, if you remember back in the day when the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau came around, CFPB, the Dodd-Frank Act. When that came around, people stuck their heads in the sand and said, this won't happen, this won't affect me, we won't have to deal with this. And the next day, it was a lot. It was a lot quickly with the CFPB, and likewise with this. I've asked several individuals who I know own title companies in Lower Alabama. We talk from time to time, complain about stuff. And I asked them, how's your FinCEN going? And they looked at me with a long face and said, my friend, let's talk. Because the problem here is, and I don't mean to be completely the bearer of bad news, but it's something the Fed to take very seriously. And with fines up to $100,000 on one side and $250,000 on the other side, up to 5 years in prison, it's not something I think they're playing around with. And I don't want to get a subpoena, I'm sure nobody else does, from the Financial Crimes Enforcement Agency. I know I do not. Anybody have any more fun questions for me today? I'm going to look over and see if I've skipped anything, which I probably have. I tend to do that.
We've interrupted you a lot, and you've been fabulous.
No, and then, listen, there are other entities that don't report. You may find yourself as an investor, right, representing a publicly traded company. Publicly traded companies also, because they are governed by the SEC. They have their own reporting agencies. You know, if the Southern Company came down here, the power company between Alabama and Georgia, and said we're buying some property down the street, we're paying cash for it. You know, that's not reportable either. If Apple decided to call you and say we're building a data center, you know, also non-reportable.
But there's no crime that ever happens with any of them ever.
Yeah. Just
Okay.
yeah, it's only residential, right?
Right.
Yeah, 100%. It's been the hardest thing to explain to people when they ask, like, why only residential? I'm like, listen, I don't know. Because that's what they, you know, those transactions happen quickly. They happen often. We actually have old schemes that come around all the time. I could tell you a million more stories. The amount of fraud that we catch, Anchor, when we talk about closing lock, we probably catch 6 to 8 fraudsters a week. Yeah, a ton. A ton. I got robbed by a guy already in jail last year because he took a mailbox check. That's why I hate sending checks to insurance companies. People just go raid insurance companies, check mailboxes, and they'll take an Anchor title check out of there, and they'll wash the check. He changed it from $3,500 to $35,000. Now, that should be caught by the bank through, by this individual bank, not this bank. Let it run through after we denied the check 5 times. And then the bank told us, well, the feds pushed it through. I'm like, it didn't even show up my treasury management. So I was like, yeah, okay. Now I had 2 choices at that part. I could either sue the bank, which that would not get me very far. I'll spend $35,000 in attorney's fees, right? But I got lucky, but the guy in prison kept it in a bank account, I guess, to use for commissary. So that's a lot of money in ramen noodles. But I did get it back. Luckily, I know the attorney general in Mobile and some of the other ladies over there, and they got it back to me pretty quickly. But I mean, the amount of fraud land title companies, not just Anchor, sees. Some of them are old but new again from way back when. And some of them are very, very good. Some of them are very good. Vacant land seller fraud is the biggest one in the country right now. And it's awfully bad. I can tell you about 7 on this side of the bay that have been hit in the past year or so. Yes, sir.
I just asked ChatGPT what were some of the criminal or civil penalties. They brought up some that you didn't mention. If you don't mind me just
No, you can
putting
go for it.
a couple and you can comment.
Try not to scare everybody too bad.
For a civil penalty, and it references the law, $500 per violation, up to $25,000 per day.
Yeah. Now, the thing about FRS reporting is how fast does it need to be reported past closing? They want it reported 30 days, right? But what I really think the rule kind of says is the end of the month on the following month. If I close today, I'm clearly not, going to get it reported today. What they would like is me to close by the last day, business day of March. But back to your point, there are instances where they will charge you by the day for every day you go over that it's not reported. And that one said $25,000 a day. That is a lot of
serious business.
That's a lot of boat fuel.
Hey, Preston, Mara and I had this conversation the other day. So let's just say she buys a property in one of her LLCs.
Okay.
She goes through FRS. She's uploaded her operating agreement and all that stuff. Next month, she closes. Next month, she puts another one in the same LLC under contract.
You still got to report it.
Is she going to have to upload her operating agreement and everything again, even though they have it?
Yeah, my understanding right now by the rule is every single time.
That's what I thought.
Every single time. Because it
We
isn't.
were hoping that it would expedite it a little bit.
This is the bad news is you want to say it is stopping anti-money laundering, right? The other issue is they're tracking everything you do.
Okay.
That's what they're tracking, everything. And I have to be the bad guy and report it all. Or the bank does.
I mean, you feel like this is going to just move the fraud from the wonderful family to commercial?
Yeah, probably.
Come on.
I had.
My mattress is over there.
They just get more creative with lending, right? I mean, some of the fraud things we've seen, I have seen them give us, thank God for closing lock, I have seen them give us both husband and wife's passports. I've seen them give us both their social security numbers and both their driver's license. I've seen them be able to answer personal questions about the family. And I was like, oh my God, this is really bad. It's gotten so bad to the point where I make the joke of I'm going to have to take hair samples when people show up to closing or thumbprints or something, because there's 2 cases. One was in Texas and one was in Louisiana. And they both had individuals, or you call it Patsy or whoever you want to call, and they offered them $5 or $10,000 to show up to the table and sign John Smith's name and sent them a fake ID. And they walk in that closing room. All you've had nothing but communication for email and phone calls, right? Mostly email. And they'll send a Patsy over there, pay him $5,000 to show up. You go sign those documents, I'll send you another $5,000. And Joe Blow will walk in, and you have no idea if that's John Smith or not. Matches his ID, or his passport picture. Could match his Sam's card. But that's all I have to go off of. And that's the bad part, is you don't know who's coming into the closing table, who's sitting across from you. That's why they've always told realtors, be careful when you go show houses, right? It's getting pretty bad, And then when I have a lot of realtors kick back on us of what are always questions my clients have to answer. Well, some of it so we know who they are. And some of it so we can protect the property and the money, which, to be fair, you should be wanting me to do in the first place. But a lot of them get mad at me and say, you're just collecting my data. And I was like, on FRS, that will be on FRS to collect that and hold that data, which they have to hold for 5 to 7 years. Anchor Title will not be holding the information. Also, I know that realtors, investors, and everybody loves to help everybody else out. Do me a huge favor. If a client ever calls you and asks your help with filling out their FRS paperwork, please do not do that. Yes. And everybody wants to get to the table faster, but let's avoid some bad situations.
Is your background legal?
No, my background is financial.
Really? So is mine, but anyway, obviously, anyway, by the nature of your profession, not a lot of legal.
Well, yeah, I enjoy the finance side typically a lot. I did abstract and research for 7 years at the family company, sitting in a back dark room, platting out and looking at map plats a lot, looking at old documents in microfilm. That is where I think you really learn land title, is abstracting side. Because then you have to figure out, you have to find the problems, and then you have to understand underwriting and figure out how to solve the problems. How do we get this to the table?
It seems like codes for construction change all the time. You can't keep up with them at all. But financing hardly ever changes. Maura knows so many subtle nuances of financing, and the experts do. But this seems to be one of the most impactful changes that come across a relatively standard industry like yours.
Right.
It seems like all these years things have run a certain way, and some bad actors have ruined it for, say, a majority of good investors.
I think it is gonna cause a hiccup to begin with. I think like most other things, once we get it down pat and understand how to navigate this, it will become less of an impact for most people. I do think, use term standard. The land title industry has changes a lot from the federal government, from the state level, and usually what affects us the most is any litigation that happens in court. A lot of that will change our standards and practices and policies and procedures and the way we do land title or do stuff interior because someone sued somebody else over something. That's usually where we see the most impactful stuff come from. Changes a lot.
Will this put more individuals and families into homes?
I think your traditional home buyer uses traditional financing. I think this will impact people, obviously, with means, want to, instead of invest in a market, invest in real estate. I think it'll impact not so much your traditional home buyer. I mean, there's a mortgage on my house. But I think, once again, this is going to be, when we talked about strategies a while ago, I think it's going to be a wait and see, because a lot of strategies always come from different rulings that come, different way to do business. What are we going to do next? How are we going to plan for the future? I think in one part, especially estate planning, would be an interesting place what we'll look at, or especially like yourselves with investors, which are the ones we're going to be talking to a lot. We could have this conversation again next year, and the feds could change a few things on it. They might add commercial for you, but we don't know yet. Yes, sir.
Is the sample of requirements and documents, is it like on Anchor's website or something so we can start figuring out what
We're working on getting that up right now.
One of the questions.
Yes, the questions, to be honest with you, most of your questions you're going to be asked for beneficial ownership information. I've seen a handful of them. They're all pretty basic questions. I haven't seen anything so far of being like, why are you asking me that? But not to say they won't be one or two probably on there. I do know that a lot of the question is going to revolve around the financial side. What bank is it currently with? What's the account number it's coming out of, right? Once again, this is why you want a secure portal and a secure company, also to keep the information and to collect the information. Because I don't feel comfortable, and Anchor Title does not feel comfortable of doing that in-house over a phone call, right, or over just a plain email and asking me to secure it for 5 years. I would like to bring someone else to the table that this is their sole job doing it, and they do it every day, all day long. But for the most part, when it comes to the questions, I got asked by a bunch of people in Birmingham not too long ago if they could, I will start putting together a PowerPoint. Don't love PowerPoints, but I'll put one together and we'll run through the questions. And because they're going to ask all of y'all, is this important? What do I do? Same thing they will ask y'all on the closing lock side. Is this important for fraud? Yes, it is. Anchor Title needs that, right? So please be on the lookout for it, because we'll send an email out about it to each client. Expect to get it, what you're expecting to do, and stuff like that. But it will be a learning curve for all of us. I'm not going to tell you that Anchor Title's got it down to pat yet. It's a new year, new hurdles. You know, the government might put some outs on us next year. It makes real estate even more fun.
Don't you think some of this was questionable only because they had screwed up all the other FinCEN stuff of LLC reporting, getting back to the human? I mean, that stuff just gets pushed off, and you had to register, you didn't have to register.
Right.
Don't do anything now, and some people did register.
No, and to be fair, Anchor Title, we like to do it the right way. I got a long way to go in my career, in my life, and I got a lot of tuition to keep paying for. So we like to do reporting the right way. We've always asked the LLC docs, been in good standing with treasurer, and to make sure we have all the documents in a row. The days of your settlement service agency saying it's fine just to close, we don't need those docs, right? Well, in an instance where they're paying cash, not traditionally financed, that's over. Over.
But originally
Say if you got cash, will close immediately or over.
You know, we talked about that. You know, like I said, I can get a rush order done if you need it done in less than 24 hours. I can get it done. But that's going to take all parties involved on the ball. So we can only move this so fast as we get information in and get it recorded and get it uploaded. And unfortunately, that does not involve you or me or anybody else. It's all up to the individuals themselves filing in the LLC.
For the business docs, what are we talking? We're talking operating agreement, articles, certificate of good standing?
Yeah, bylaws.
Bylaws.
Yep. You're talking a fair amount. I know a lot of people don't have that because I get asked that a lot, and then I guess it's time to create that. Your operating agreement, right? If there's one, Articles in Court, organizational docs, stuff like that.
I'd go ahead and tell you, working for a bank, that's going to be a pain.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people
Yes.
don't have bylaws.
Yes.
Just as people are grant writers, it seems like there would be people that will begin to specialize in this and perhaps that, but you wouldn't want to employ such a person
Right.
on your staff.
Right. You know,
Independent contractor.
we looked into that a year plus ago. We kind of knew that your sign that it was coming no matter what was when both parties wanted it. No one was going to, whoever got elected into Congress or whoever had that many votes, it was never going to get shot down, no matter what. So that was our first clue that it's coming, whether it's tomorrow or a year or two from now. So we kicked the ball around a little bit on going ahead and hiring an individual with the responsibility for all of Anchor's offices to conduct the filings and do customer service, right, and to track people down and understand what they're doing. But there were some other things that came up in there. While I didn't want Anchor to be on the forefront of that, I wanted to, FRS is a company that was created by Stewart, our underwriting company. So it gets them in the game and they understand the seriousness of it and what to do. You can go to the FinCEN network, to the website, and start looking it up. I believe they do have a handful of example questions on there right now. But having that in-house, having the security and the data security and the clientele, it was going to be over the phone. And I really wanted a secure portal, multi-factor authentication, a way to do it so everyone felt comfortable, everyone's data was fine, and it was an easier way for the client to produce their information. Also, from the money side, I can keep costs down by using FRS than having someone in-house doing it also. So it was a kind of a twofer not to do it in-house. It became pretty clear pretty quick that that's not what we wanted to do.
A quick investor question. So double closes.
Mm-hmm.
We don't opt out of insurance there, title insurance. Do you do, you have to do the FinCEN on, we always double close an LLC.
Mm-hmm.
Before we buy it and sell it later 30 days, I know we're going to increase costs there, but just a double close or a dry close, is that?
Yeah, even with that, even with,
pay it?
yes, because even when you talk about dry close and there's no consideration, right? There's no money being handed at that point for one in the middle. If it goes through, right, if it's non-traditional, if there's no financing involved from a traditional lender, now, how did we get from point, if you're talking about a double close, you've got A, B, and C. How did we get from A to B? The same ownership? No, different ownership. Okay. Because a lot of times people will say, well, whether or not I'll sell it out of an LLC or for tax reasons or whatever it may be, because I'm going to take a loss on it or whatnot. Even if that quick transaction double close, if B is purchasing it from A, either zero consideration or cash, and it is an entity, then yes, it will be in the middle of that transaction.
As an assignment, you don't have to do anything there? It's like a realtor commission, or you still have to do it there?
I believe you still have to do it there.
Okay. Because you had equitable interest as
Right.
a sales contract? Okay.
That's what they're really looking for. Who's involved? They're looking for names. They're looking for numbers. And they're looking for the bank and financing where it's coming from.
Who gets the fees?
FRS?
So the federal government gets it?
No. Federal government, at this point, is the FRS is a different company we're using.
So
They're a third party for us.
They're a third party for us.
And they're,
That's what they're charging Anchor to do. Yeah.
so FRS is going to also not only take the data and the documents, but then also make sure the documents satisfy whatever the requirements are.
Correct. That's another reason I wanted to use them, was the fact that even after we close, if it was to get kicked back in any way, because they didn't like whatever answer on whatever line, right, they would still follow up and make sure the correct information, they would track and ask the questions down and then get it reported. That way we wouldn't have to be too concerned about it after the fact. Because I didn't want to make sure, go check every single one. I wanted a guarantee on it that it did get reported.
Right, I'm just thinking of people that do an operating agreement on the couch with a crayon and do a one-page document and call it good.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. It's even better in Florida, where you don't have to have an attorney to prepare a deed. Some of the deeds we get in Florida are kind of similar to that.
I've got tenant applicants that put LLC after their name.
Yeah, and then we have a lot of phone calls at Anchor for sale by owners, and ask, I'm going to send you a contract. Okay, let's see it. Piece of loose leaf paper, and as long as there's consideration, names and addresses, stuff like that, we basically need, we've taken, if it has the pertinent information on there, we can take it, right? Signed, dated, whole 9 yards, we'll work on it. Anchor's done a lot of interesting transactions over the years. Fun times, yay.
I may have missed this in the beginning, but what's the minimum amount that you have to report?
The minimum of money? There is no.
Like when you have to report?
There is. You have to, if you buy a piece of property for $1,
Oh, really?
you're reporting it.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. And to be fair, that's when they would actually look at you more if you were to sell property. Because once again, we talked about in the beginning, it was, I know you weren't here, but they talk about what are the 3 easiest ways to launder money. And it's always in the eye of the beholder. And it was always gyms, artwork, and real estate. I mean, if you're selling $100,000 piece of property for $10, because back in the day we used to put that on deeds, right? We just consideration on. Yeah, but we cannot cannot over here. The consideration has to be. Yeah, but that's about tax money. That's about probate court. That's about collecting money. That's what that is. The days of you selling your condo to your friend and putting, we sold it for $10. No, it's a real estate evaluation form you fill out now. How much? That's gone too.
I think the pushback's gonna be from the sellers, because the sellers are individuals and all of a sudden they're selling their property, even though they're motivated to sell their property, they're gonna go, well, why have I gotta do this? I'm selling a property. Well, it's part of the process. And I think that's where we're gonna get a little bit of pushback. So I'm just trying to get rid of it.
So a cash offer might not only be the best offer.
So you're saying the banks are behind us?
Yeah, it's those lawyers.
That would make sense.
Anybody have any questions? We can do this again, and I will try to get a PowerPoint together with some questions, right? Better put some examples together. I did give you a flow chart in front of you in your piece of paperwork to try to help. Pretty basic way to follow it of what triggers a filing and what does not trigger a filing. It's pretty simple, as simple as we can get it. But I know you all have answers, I know you'll have questions. Everyone always does. I still have questions. But I left a card. Maybe there's a card on anybody's thing. I'm not sure. I gave a stack up here.
I passed them all out.
Okay. Call me.
Yeah,
anytime.
don't call me.
Yeah. I'll kick you over to general counsel, to the lawyers, let you talk to them. Anybody got any good news? It's Friday.
It's Friday.
The sun might come out.
Thank you, Preston.
Yes, thank you for coming, Preston. Okay, next month, we have two of our local flippers, Lamontis Gardner and Mary Hill, coming last Friday of March to talk about how to be a great flipper. And if anybody's ever flipped houses in this room, I know a lot of us have, it looks fun and it is fun, but it is very challenging to do well and do repeatedly over and over again. And if either of you know these two individuals, they do it. They've been doing it for years. They do it well. They do it consistently. And it's a lot harder than it looks. Has flipping a house ever been hard for anybody? I don't know. I've had my fair share of challenges there. So these two people, a lot of us know them, and they are the real deal. They're local, and they've been doing this well for years. So they're going to come in and talk about some of their best practices for being a great flipper. I think it's going to be really, really good. So thank you guys for coming for a great discussion, and hopefully I'll see you next month. And please eat the food.
Yes.